Hello everyone, this is Chris, just watching a game of BacT in the blue here, playing as the Malians against Capoch. He's playing with his nickname Kata as Malay. Now, I seen this game a couple days ago. I was just watching, chilling out, enjoying the two of my old teammates playing each other, and thought it was an interesting game and figured I'd just take a look through it and show you guys what happened, because it was pretty exciting. So here we'll look at BacT first. So I'll say right now he's scouting quite a bit with his cows, and you can see he's got back berries, back gold, looks like back wood. It's a pretty nice map, if I could say so myself. At least with the starting resources, he's found both his boars and just found the deer there. Does look a little open on the front from the sides. I mean, it'd be tough to close this off, I think, unless you maybe went angled this direction and down this way. But getting all the way to the edge of the map would be pretty tough with this side, I think. Might even be better with some small walls just to kind of close in around here, close in around the sides. He's luring some deer. It's a good idea in the early game, especially once you find the resources. Just get some extra food in there. And if we take a look at Capoch right now, it looks like he scouted some of his resources. Got a front boar out here, another one out here. Gold's a little forward, but he does have two wood piles in the back, which is kind of nice, and berries are on the side. Does look pretty open over here. But still, I'd say primed for a decent amount of action just with the way this is laid out. So obviously he's the Malay, so Malay up pretty quickly, which allows them to make a couple extra villagers and maybe get an economy lead, which is actually I think it's kind of an underrated bonus. It's actually very good. Looks like right now he's got 4 on wood. And just making a house here, and we'll see what he does. Is he going to build a mill, or is he going to build a barracks? Because that's probably the decision time. I will say that it looks like it's going to be a pre-mill drush. I do think this is a good strategy in general. It keeps your opponent on their toes, gives you some early initiative, which is nice to have, and it doesn't sacrifice too much of your economy as long as you kind of balance your resources on your way up. Oh, and we see Capoch here laming 2 cows from BacT, and even trying to go for a villager too. Now, if he knew where his town center was, he might have gotten that. I mean, maybe not. It's pretty close. And it looks like he didn't spot this boar, but he is now. So the trick is, if you spot a villager like that, and if you're hell bent on laming, which I don't always recommend, but block the villager, don't block the boar. It's a much easier way to get a kill. I'm not encouraging that, obviously. You know, play fair, everyone. But obviously, if it's a tournament game, and this game in particular is a rated game, just between these two players, but looks like he got away with it. Grab the 2 cows. That's also extra nice when you're drushing, right? It makes it a lot easier to hit to the next stage. It's another common thing I recommend. If you got a villager building houses, add some walls, and especially after that first one builds all these buildings, you might as well go right to the edge of the map, or maybe even this way, I would say in this case. If you notice the cliff is there, that's probably the shortest route and gives you some safe gold. One thing I find some players do too is once you start drushing, if you hit 60 wood, drop a farm. You're going to need the food probably anyway, but maybe not with the 2 cows, I guess. But you got to remember, it is an advantage grabbing 2 cows, but at the same time, he spent his scout time doing that, right? He had to find the cows, and that was a bit lucky to find them. Ooh, that's bad there for BacT. You always want to, when you're scouting and you see a drush, always put it on stand ground and go about a screen away when you're scouting back and forth. That way, at least if you get hit, it's one set of hits. And what I was saying earlier is that BacT took 2 deer. So even though he lost two cows, he roughly got the same amount of food with those 2 deer. And you can see Capoch is going quite far to hunt the deer. So in some cases, I'd actually recommend you push the deer instead of trying to find your enemy resources, because it's a more consistent way to get that food. And it seems like deer are more often closer to the TC than they used to be, and they seem less fickle. I don't know, I always used to seem to want to go back. So you can also see BacT did a good thing here. He knew the drush was coming. Obviously, he took some damage for that, but always a good idea to pre-wall if you can. Saves a lot on your micro time. You know, you're not trying to do it on the fly. Less risk that way. And it looks like he's going to single archery range, which is seems to be the meta these days, which is what you want to commonly do against the drush. It's that way you don't sacrifice too much economy, and at the same time you can build farms and also deal with this drush. And if we look at Capoch, okay, he is walling the far way. And I guess if he walled the short way, it might be confusing for him because you can't tell that there's another hole here. So this might actually work out for him better than what I suggested earlier. And as you can see, up so quickly. And if you look right now at the economy here, Capoch is actually 2 villagers ahead. This is the power of the Malay. You know, I think what people don't realize is 2 villagers in the old days with Chinese as the civilization used to be a huge advantage, and I think people don't really recognize that this is actually a pretty big advantage on this case too. So you do notice Capoch is upgrading to men-at-arms, but he's against walls, and he also doesn't know what his opponent is doing. I would typically recommend, if you're going to go to men-at-arms, and you see your enemy's already on gold, you know there's archers that are coming, it's probably not worth it getting the men-at-arm upgrade. You probably just want to stick with militia in this case. That's just my 2 cents. Obviously, if he breaks in and gets some kills, it's maybe I'm out to lunch here, but and BacT doesn't seem to be repairing or doing anything, so obviously that's something you want to do as well. Also, if you ever find your villager gets stuck like this, keep spamming the garrison button. You know, I think it's Alt G for some people or Alt for some people. For some reason, I don't know why, but it does help getting them unstuck. And as you can see, BacT is just chasing down this army with his archers, and whether they're militia or men-at-arms, they're not doing much here anyway. They're probably just distracting more than anything. I will also highlight that you know, Capoch is getting some farms down. He's got his nice forward gold here. He's kind of walled both sides. So he knows all the pressure is going to be in this front area, and he's making some archers here. And if you look at BacT's base, it's very similar to this. And you can see Capoch is trying to be annoying, trying to pick up an archer here. Always a good call. If you can get a stray archer, get it, but you always want to keep your scout. You want to find, scout the rest of the map and know if your opponent's attacking you. This is a common strategy where you go off to the side with archers and see if you can find something. But I will note that BacT already knows that this is already walled off. So essentially you know that you have to go here really. And it can be dicey to do that without knowing for sure what your enemy has. But it looks like he's retreated and decided to watch that men-at-arms, and is what's Capoch doing with that. I mean, it looks like he's coming around here too. Also, while all this is happening, you can see that they're trying to maximize their food economy. 10 on wood's a pretty good number. 6 on gold is probably actually too many with 1 archery range. And when you want to go up, I would actually say right now you probably want 3 or 4. And then you put an extra 1 or 2 on, a couple minutes before you want to go up to the next age. You got to watch your villagers like this. It's just creeping out there. Sometimes at pre-wall, like in some cases you can put a couple palisade tiles here. That'll just help you so this doesn't happen. Because this could be a huge surprise. That's a game loser on occasion if you get a big army going through there and surprising you. He did notice, of course. Most good players will, but I'm definitely speaking from experience on that one. Oh, look at the sneaky man-at-arms. This is why you always want to check your walls too. It's just being annoying. Cost 30 wood there, and is he going to get a villager? Oh, just barely. Oh, no. And so he is going forward here, but Capoch is also kind of just going, well, I have a small amount left to wall, might as well just finish it off. I'd actually recommend this in general. If you're getting close to being fully walled, take the time, finish the last few. That'll definitely save you every now and then. And if these 10 military units were in, it would be a big deal. And you can see the same on this side too. I mean, obviously, BacT did some greedy walls in a greedy mining camp. If you went on this side, oh, he's doing it now. But you might be able to stay outside the range. And if you had an extra house right here, these would probably be not rangeable, at least by feudal archers. But I guess he does have the army to come back and get it too, so. Trying to pick off some archers here, and does he know where this army is? So if we look, he's trying to get a few villagers, a few archers here. Capoch doing some okay micro, but then still losing a couple there. I'd say he's got in fact he's got a slight edge here. But once the skirm is there, I'd say just, yeah, it's time to go. And BacT recognizes that. And Capoch did find that scout, and is BacT nearby? Because if you can intercept with 5 skirmishers, that's a pretty good idea. Sometimes get some easy kills that way. It does look like BacT is switching to knights here. And if we look at Capoch here, he had the second range. Okay, so he's going mass ranged units. The uptime's pretty comparable. It looks like it'll be within, 20 or 30 seconds of each other. So Capoch definitely has the economy to drop 2 TCs and boom, or to go blacksmith, university and grab a fast set of ballistics here. So it looks like he's getting the crossman upgrade, which is good. Did he get the what upgrade? Not sure. And he's going for a forward siege shot. So this is interesting because I actually prefer when you're up against. He doesn't know that BacT's going knights, but if he knew he was up against knights, I prefer skipping ballistics at the start myself, just because more archers and a couple TCs is probably more of a pain for knight players to deal with. And the siege shot too. It's if you get overwhelmed by knights, you don't want siege. But I guess he still thinks BacT's probably going ranged units here, so. And BacT did have the foresight to kind of pre-wall here. Obviously, Capoch can get in right here, but he's just deciding to go for villagers first, which is a good choice too. Potential there. If we look at BacT's perspective right here, he's trying to pick off some units here. And he is going for a second town center here, and he has 4 knights with +2 armor. And I would say that looks like, I don't know, 15 crossbows-ish. There's 5 knights, 6 knights. You could probably take it if you had the hill advantage and ballistics. Let's see if Capoch goes for it. Yeah, it looks like he's going to go for it. And that's what you do. You retreat up the hill and shoot once. That's the style if you want to do maximum damage before you get in range. Looks like that range is still being annoying. And Capoch is going back to clean it up, which makes a lot of sense. You might as well do that cost effectively. And BacT's also realized this army isn't worth much anymore. I think, if anything, it's just trying to be annoying with it. Those splits here. But I think this ranged army is going to get mopped up. Although there is a decent amount of knights here. It hasn't killed any villagers, though. Yeah, so it did clean up a lot of that army. Now BacT's retreating. The interesting part is that Capoch only has 1 TC. And just because he has Malay, he's actually got the same amount of villagers as BacT, who has 2 TCs. And is keeping them both working. So I would say if Capoch had dropped 2 town centers right at the start of Castle Age, and skipped the siege shop and skipped the ballistics, he'd be way ahead in economy right now. And that's a lot of villagers on gold. That's, geez, 16, okay. So he's obviously planning for full archers and probably full mangonels and siege. Single mangonel here. Yeah. And BacT, interestingly, is not focusing on the army. It's not a bad idea to try and counterattack. I often recommend, Oh, he picked up some nice mangonel here too. That's really good by BacT. When I'm against mass archers and a siege push, and you know they're pushing with siege, I often recommend smaller groups, 2 to 3 knights, and maybe 1 or 2 different spots going forward, and the rest defending here. Oh, that's a pretty decent shot. So actually, Capoch splits pretty nicely there, and BacT realized he doesn't have enough to fight this. And sometimes that happens, right? You got to decide: am I gonna lose my army and only kill half this army, or do I retreat? And BacT made the right call there. It's you know, you don't want to fight a losing fight, so that's where you got to be extra careful when you watch these things. But it looks like they're both doing quite a bit, because on this side too, Capoch is walling in like crazy. House walls here, and that's why if you only had 3 knights, you'd have the same investment from Capoch, but you'd have 3 more knights back here. And, you know, if you had 6 here and 1 mangonel, I feel like, you know, you're getting pretty close to doing some damage on this army, so he has decided it's time to come back with all of it, which makes sense. Once you get some archers behind some walls, might as well leave that area alone. Now, the score looks very deceiving to me here. Like, you look at the villager count, BacT has more villagers, obviously less military, but he has stronger military. I mean, it's obviously... Capoch still has more total net military, and with the upgrades too, but it's definitely not you know, it looks like it's 800 points away, and I would say it's definitely, I would say Capoch has an advantage here, but I would say it's not that, you know, 800 points is probably enough to usually signify that game's over, and I don't think that's the case here. Smart, sniping a single mangonel just within range. Whenever you're fighting crossbows like this, you always want to retreat and then shoot with the mangonel. If you do that, and they decide to chase you in any way, shape, or form, or try and dance, you have at least a pretty decent shot of giving them some damage. That's what I find. Just like this, yeah. Come in, take a shot, retreat. And the nice thing too is BacT has the line of sight advantage. He has an outpost here, which is very useful. And you can see Capoch is probably watching this right now. And right when you stop watching it, you turn around. And that's a very good strategy. I would say always do that. But I will also note, Capoch has too much resources right now. 17 on food. You need a second town center. Yeah, and to be honest, you probably have enough wood to build the third as well. And you could easily build another 20 villagers, and that would really make a huge difference at this point. Ooh, this fight looks dicey, actually. How many archers are left there? 24 versus 8 knights. They do have +2 armor. I'd say actually this is probably a pretty good fight for BacT. Ooh, nice mangonel shot right there. That made a huge difference. He might have actually lost that fight otherwise. And as you can see, the score equalized quite a bit. And actually the villagers are equal here too. And this is exactly that moment where Capoch probably wishes he had 2 TCs, and if he had spent that 1,000 food, he'd have another, you know, what is that, 20 villagers? So would have been a pretty big difference. And even on BacT's side, it looks like he has 2 town centers. But oh my god, I didn't realize this, but BacT has forward gold here. He's not getting gold, and both his other main golds are here. So maybe that's why Capoch was being so aggressive as well, as he knew if he could deny BacT gold entirely, that can sometimes be a game over move on its own. So very interesting. And you can see BacT just getting wheelbarrow at 71 villagers. I would always recommend you do that earlier than that, somewhere around, nice dancing, you know, around 35 to 45 villagers, somewhere in that range is usually a pretty good estimate. And these villages are getting pretty inefficient. I'd probably add an extra TC here, a gold mine, or would be a good idea. They're walking a little ways. And it feels like there's too many on this mine. Definitely getting the stone. Picks off a monk there. Okay. So if we look, BacT has actually closed the gap. He's got 77 villagers versus 69, so that's a pretty big up advantage there. But on the alternative, though, Capoch is, you know, constant villager production. Looks like he's adding some pikemen, I'm guessing. And is there another monastery? No, no monastery. and 87 population compared to BacT's 92. So I'd actually say this is also deceptive. I would say BacT is definitely ahead here. He's got more expensive units and more villagers. And I would say he kind of has the map control right now. It looks like he's picking good fights here with Capoch losing some units there while he runs away. And he did go for a forward castle drop, and I don't like this spot. I'll be honest with you. Especially after taking out that army and you have a Mangonel. I think you go right here, right on this hill, right in Capoch's face, go for this town center, or you go right by the main gold. You take out some military buildings that are there. There's even stone, which I didn't notice, but right here. I guess he might be afraid of some ranged units just being annoying, but the spot feels, eh. So Capoch is actually getting a lot of resources here. He only has 2 TCs going, so he's actually pretty close to clicking up. And pikemen coming too. That makes it decision time for BacT. Do you stick with knights? Do you add Gabettos? Do you just go to the next stage and go champ scrolls? That's the question. He's on 87 population. He's not close to clicking up, but he is close to having enough stone for a second one. Second castle. Looks like Capoch just clicked up, and with Malay they go up super quick, so what I would say for Capoch is you want to make sure you don't lose your army at this point in time. Make sure you get those upgraded. I am a bit surprised too to see he invested in the armor upgrade. Against only knights, I would say you probably don't need to get that upgrade. I'd actually prefer it on the pikemen. Ooh, yeah. Don't go out. He lost a few, what, 3? Oh yeah, okay, don't go out and fight right before you're imping. You're halfway to imp. You want to minimize that as much as possible. Like a fight like this, I would say retreat right away. At the same time, though, it looks like he has 11 pikemen, and if you look at BacT's perspective, he has 20 knights. Okay, that's quite a few knights. But you definitely are fighting pure pikemen. You're fighting these archers up a hill and the TC fire. It's a bit dubious, but at the same time, it's also pretty nice to take the fight. If you knew Capoch was imping, this would be the perfect time to take a fight. So, and it looks like he is causing quite a few heavy losses for Capoch. And yeah, that was a very well-timed fight, I would say. And a good castle here. But it does look like he's kind of holding on here. He's got 6 pikemen, there's 6 knights here, and maybe some more down here. And he's producing more. 8 pikes versus, yeah, 5 knights. Looks like he's actually going to pretty much clear it up here. And it looks like BacT does have the 2 forward castles, but Capoch is going to have a defensive one as well. And he's got 80 villagers compared to BacT's 100. But BacT still has to invest, 1,800 resources to go imp. So if I was BacT right here, I would recommend, or even if I'm not, I would recommend, the second you see this going up, you realize you're still in Castle Age, you're not about to click imp, start building petards. And maybe add 1 ram, he's adding a ram here. And just put the ram over here, and essentially use it to tank fire while you blow this castle up. And you can even do it with both castles. Looks like he's going Gabettos instead. Okay, interesting. Definitely a big fan of adding some Gabettos. They got tons of attack. Knock out the blacksmith for Capoch. Pretty equal populations here, and Capoch is going for trebuchets. And he's got the 2, still only 2 TCs. Going. This feels pretty dicey out here with all these villagers. 15 out here. Especially with all his army coming. But does BacT know? He doesn't know. He doesn't know there's a bunch of villagers here. Oh, he sees the houses. Okay, so... And this is a smart move by Capoch, I would say. And by BacT. So the smart move by Capoch was just house walling really quickly to make sure you keep everything out. And the good move by BacT is basically using the Gabettos to try and kill the walling villagers. And, did he kill that blacksmith before flashing, before the last, archer attack upgrade was in? It looks like it. So he is getting trapped down here. And this is where you got to make a decision. So he is going to Imperial Age, it looks like. And we can see here, it looks like there's a lot of Champ Scarls going to be coming soon. The question is, how long can he hold off? Do you know, there's 2 Trebs. You might want to consider, if you're, especially if your castle's on a hill like this, just buying some stone and repairing it with 5 or 6 villagers. It'll buy you some time. Because right now, these 10 villagers, they got to get out of there. Essentially, an army could come and wipe those out. At least you still have a second castle to buy you some time when you're only halfway to Imp. You do want to get these out as soon as practical. And from Capoch's perspective, I would say now's the time to strike. He's actually got the advantage right here, I would say. And he slowly turned around just because he has the military advantage. And BacT didn't retreat these villagers. So obviously if you see a castle go down, you got to decide right away what to do with any units that are outside there. They never did get the last attack upgrade or the Arbalest upgrade there, so they are still not that strong against those longswords with 4 armor there. But he is trebbing this castle down, so that's going to drop. And you look at the score, and I would say Capoch still has less villagers, but he's got more military. It's kind of been a common theme the last little while here. But at the same time, BacT is super housed from losing 2 castles. Whenever your castles are going to go down, you always want to make sure that you start building houses. Just three or 4 villagers, just make 5 or 10 in the back somewhere. What's going on here with these villagers going to war? I'm not sure, but probably not the smartest, sending 7 of them to their death. And this part is interesting because you have Capoch trying to raid with some pikemen. He knows that they can't do much against longswords. You still got some other army over here. And it looks like we got the 2-hand sword upgrade coming, plate mail coming. And if you look at BacT's perspective, it's not terrible. I mean, you're obviously only 130 population. You see a big army like this coming. But it's not upgraded and you got 6 armor. You got 6 pierce armor compared to 7 attack. It's 1 damage per shot if they're on the same level. You know, on the same level. But it looks like Capoch is adding Karambits, and you can see like those archers are not doing much extra to these longswords, but they do. He has the numbers for sure. Capoch has the numbers here. You can see that's actually a pretty tanky army, but looks like it will go down. And Capoch is kind of running around looking for some resources here. And this is a super open economy. You almost gotta. You gotta decide right there, do I run or what do I do? And it looks like BacT does have some army coming in, and that's what he's doing, is just using army to defend it. Which it looks like that's the right decision here. And he's also simultaneously raiding. I definitely like this approach right here. Especially if you can hit multiple spots. Like, you can really distract somebody by doing that and do a lot of damage. Essentially, Capoch is doing that here in some way, shape, or form with this little raid here. And at the same time, BacT's doing the same thing on this side. And Capoch did try to repair it, but it looks like his villagers got a little stuck there, so they didn't manage to do it. So it looks like a really high-action game right now. When you're in a situation like this, you don't want to make perfect decisions, you want to make okay ones. So for example, you see a castle here, throw these 10 villagers somewhere else. You know, you might throw them here, you know, just anywhere, essentially. Focus on the big army fights, which is what BacT's doing, and same with Capoch. Capoch is realizing, hey, I hope he's realizing he doesn't have the attack upgrades here. He can actually do a lot more damage if he does. The alternative would be to add a lot more Karambits. And maybe get the upgrades for him, which looks like what he's doing there. And fighting by the castle obviously helps too. And if we look at Capoch's perspective, he's got 150 population. He's building some Karambits, but they're not elite, which does make a big difference, so. But at these numbers, they'll take these 2-hand swords out. But on the other side, he's got some issues here. In this case, I think he should focus quite a bit on getting that elite upgrade. It's also, he's got some raids going on this side too, which are all over the place. This side too, oh man. What a messy game. Repairing his TC here. Repair with all your villagers. If you get in a situation like this, okay, yeah, it goes down. Might be time to retreat those. Actually, looks like BacT's retreating anyway. And I would say at this point in time, your main focus should be on raiding. And your economy is kind of second, I would say. Taking good fights and raiding is number 1, number 2. And if you can, put castles in the right spots to defend your economy. Grab the extra resources, like Capoch did a good job here grabbing this gold. Rebuilding this TC, it's a smart move, just because you got so many villagers. You have to make sure you garrison, though. Yeah, he got it. And he's still being annoying with these Karen bits. And it looks like BacT's also chasing down the Trev. Smart move. They're very expensive at 400 resources a pop. It makes a lot of sense to send 5 or 10 champions after them. It looks like this is a losing fight for BacT, but it might have been hard to tell. Looks like he didn't do terrible. And when you're making the judgment call, if there's no elite upgrade, you might also want to fight anyway, just to get down the numbers, essentially. And BacT's doing the same thing here. Left side, right side, getting all the trebuchets. And without them being elites, like, even though there's a lot of them here, like, these champs may do okay. If they fight back, it looks like they're going other things here. Looks like another round of champions coming into this TC here. Raids going on right here. And BacT's raiding like crazy. And this is a really tough thing to deal with. Looks like they both had 105 villagers. They both have roughly the same amount of army. Capoch actually looks like he has more castles for defense, and maybe even the side gold here. But I think if he had the elite upgrade, that would make a huge difference right here. Right now, these units are not cost effective against upgraded champions, I would say. And that's definitely going to cost him. And it looks like some champions are raiding down this army. That'll just eat those archers, no problem. As you can see, they're barely even killing 1 unit. And right here, the non-elite versus the champions. Yeah, you can see the champions just kind of cost-effectively beating this army, even with the castle fire, because it doesn't do much to 8 pierce armor champions. I mean, you can see the shots. It's, you know, maybe a champion every 1 or, you know, every 2 volleys or so. So it's crazy, because if you look at it right now, I actually think, you know, Capoch is 100 population, and BacT's almost 200, so it really swung fast. And that's what happens when you have these raids and if you cost-effective fights at the same time. So if you focus on those things, even if you have idle villagers, it might not matter. So, and when you have idols, just put them to work doing anything. Wood, gold, stone. I often also recommend if you have a second, drop a castle, build farms, but then focus on raiding. And it looks like that was quite a comeback from BacT. It was kind of 2 times during this game. The first time with the siege shop here, where BacT came back, and the second time, definitely an imp here after his castles got trebbed down. He was in a losing position. I think Capoch definitely had the opportunity to take this game from him. Maybe if he just had the elite Karambit upgrade, and maybe some of those attack upgrades on his early archers in Imperial Age. And especially when you took this first hill right here, I think you hit a lot of farms, and there's a lot of villagers on the wood line here at the time, and that would have essentially given him some time, some breathing room to get into upgraded Karambit warriors. Overall, a really good game, and I watched this one and really enjoyed it, so I wanted to show it to you. And let's go take a look at the statistics. So if you look at the military statistics, BacT definitely pulled ahead, probably mostly near the end there. His economy was better, but I would also say his economy was better pretty much the whole game. You know, he gathered a lot more food, a little less wood, and comparable other resources. Even though he didn't pick up those other gold piles, still did very good on the gold side of things. And the military side, this is where I think Capoch had the military advantage. And obviously, if you're fighting with less cost-effective units like archers or Karambits, especially with non-elite, you expect to have more units lost than killed for sure. But I think it was too many. Especially since he had quite an army advantage at a few certain points during the game. So I would say overall, very good game. High quality on both sides. I definitely really enjoyed watching it and casting it for you guys. And hope you enjoyed it too. And if we look at the villager count, neither of them really gathered the relics. And in a messy game like this, I'd actually be completely fine with saying that's okay. If you get near when the gold is running out, that's when you want to focus on it a little bit, because it makes a much bigger difference then. But if it's before then, I would say only if, you know, it's such an open map and a lot of raids, you only want to focus on it if you have time, or you have monks on the field already. Like Capoch did have monks on the field at some point, but it was only when he was offensively, and then he lost those. So, and if you look at the timeline here, I mean, it's hard to say because obviously sometimes these timelines are a little deceptive because they don't show the value of the army and they don't show which units counter what. And but I would say there definitely was a, you know, it was kind of weird. There was a couple of momentum shifts. Capoch was definitely ahead in early Castle Age to mid Castle Age. BacT came back with that huge fight right here. Capoch, you know, and then BacT put castles in Capoch's face. Capoch hit Imp, trebbed them back down, and actually did a lot of damage for BacT hit Imp, and then it was a, you know, good comeback from BacT from that point onwards. So very interesting game. Thank you all for coming out and watching, and if you enjoy this sort of content, please let me know. Just put in the comments down below, and if you want to see more like this, hit the subscribe button and smash the like button. See you next time.